Chapter 4 The Fat Cat Sat. Here's an entry I wrote in my English journal on October 8th. I remember when I was 8 and my mom was about to give birth to Jeffrey. My grandfather gave me a big pep talk on the way to the hospital. Well, muscles, yes. He really did call me that. This is your big day. My big day? Why is this my big day, Grandpa? Come on, Stephen. It's not every day you get to become a big brother, and you are going to be a very, very important. And you're going to be very, very important from now on. This was startling news for me. Very important. Why? I'm not a mom. I'm not even a dad, and not even 9 yet. I still have baby teeth, even. You're going to be very important because you are going to be your new baby's protector. Really? Yes, you are. Your baby isn't going to know all the things you know, or be strong like you are, or anything. And you're going to be very important to this baby because you're not the mommy or daddy, you're the big brother, and the baby is going to love you and need you so much. And for about 10 or 15 minutes there in the car, I felt great. I remember thinking, wow, a protector. Not everybody gets to be a protector. I'm going to be like Robin Hood. I might even get to wear a badge. Then Grandpa nosed his huge Chevy Impala into a parking space at the hospital. By the time we got upstairs to the maternity ward, and I saw the balloons and flowers everywhere, and my 3 other grandparents crowded around an incubator crying and smiling like they'd just won the Powerball Lotto, I was having second thoughts about this whole protector gig. Still, though, I have always protected Jeffrey. When he was 3 and fell on a stick in our driveway, I was the one who took him inside to get Band-Aid for his boo-boo bunny and his boo-boo bunny. When his little best friend, Alex, tried to push him off the swing set last year, I got in trouble for pulling Alex down and screaming in his face until my mom dragged me away. Even when Jeffrey had a big asthma attack and had to be hospitalized overnight when he was 1, I stood right next to his bed and held his hand for what seemed like hours and hours until he fell asleep. Then, in the middle of the night, when he woke up scared, I crawled into his bed with him, and our parents found us that way in the morning. I haven't always liked being the protector, but I think I have taken the job pretty seriously overall. So how come when I wasn't looking, Jeffy got cancer? The journal topic that day, I later learned, was discuss your favorite character in Huckleberry Finn. The thing I couldn't believe was how this cancer thing turned the whole planet upside down in one day. I mean, it turns out that Jeffrey had been sick for a while without us knowing. When my mom got him to the emergency room, the nurse took his temperature, and it was a little over 100. The nurse asked him how he felt. He told her that he knew he had a fever and that his parts had been hurting for a long time. Meanwhile, his nose just kept bleeding and bleeding. The regular ER doctor must have thought this looked a bit unusual, so he called a pediatrician. My mom told us that night that she couldn't believe what the pediatrician told Jeffrey to do next. Please walk over to the desk there and get me a tissue. My mom was thinking, my child is bleeding profusely, and you want him to get you a tissue? But Jeffrey got right up and started walking toward the main desk at the ER. My mom said she suddenly noticed that Jeffrey was limping. As she told us this, Jeffrey was already upstairs in bed. She started to weep. How did I not notice this? Why did I need a doctor to show me? How long has he been limping? How long has my baby been limping around with a fever while I was too busy grading papers and making dinner, or even look at my Jeffy? My dad, who wasn't looking too composed either, came over and put his his arm around her, and didn't say anything though. So I chimed in, Mom, we were all too busy to notice, and it's not just you. He even told me this morning that he was cold and his parts hurt, and I just thought it was Jeffrey being Jeffrey. I was bummed that he interrupted my practicing and asked for breakfast, my own brother, and all he wanted was some oatmeal. Now I was getting truthful and a bit weepy myself. So, see what I mean about cancer turning everything upside down? This pity festival went on for at least another hour, with each of us pretty much saying that over and over and somehow our fault. Now let's face it, I'm smart enough to know logically that Jeffrey didn't get cancer because I stole change from his piggy bank when he was 3 and bought Tic Tacs for my whole class with it. But for some reason, on that first horrible night, it seemed as though everything I did to Jeffrey had probably caused this horrible genetic damage. And now they were coming for our sin. Now we were confessing our sins. Finally, I asked my parents what was going to happen next. They told me that my mom would be taking Jeffrey to Philadelphia, an hour and a half away, first thing in the morning for some medical tests. So he might not even have cancer, right? If experts in Philly, these local doctors are probably wrong pretty often. And then tomorrow night, you'll be right back, right? And tell us it was a mistake. My dad chimed in. Anything is possible, son. But Mom wasn't in the mood for optimism. We won't be coming back tomorrow night, Stephen. What do you mean you won't be coming back tomorrow night? What about Jeffrey's school? If he misses 2 days of kindergarten in a row, he'll probably miss like a letter in the alphabet. And if it's a vowel, then he'll have this huge problem with reading. He'll read the fat cat sat, but he'll think it says the very funny, Stephen. And what do you think about, and what about your work, Mom? Both of my parents got really, really quiet, and all of a sudden, I knew this was not a good sign. Finally, my dad spoke. Mom might not be working for a while. But what? Why? How did Stephen had a long talk with the principal. I had a long talk with the principal today, and there's a pretty good chance I'll be taking some time off of work. Wow, Mom, but you were pretty busy today. She looked away. I guess because I was nervous. I started to recap the day's events out loud. So, okay, October 7th, the Elper family woke up as normal people do. Younger son gets nosebleed. Older son goes to school. Dad goes to work. Younger son goes to the emergency room. Younger son allegedly has cancer. Mom quits job. Mom and younger son get ready to skip town. Father and older son stand around like idiots and prepare to buy a huge supply of what? TV dinners? Please calm down, Stephen. We're all going to have to make a big adjustment. We're all going to have a big adjustment to make. Adjustment? Adjustment? Getting a new car is an adjustment. Switching math classes is an adjustment. Finding out your brother has leukemia, supposedly. And that your mom is now unemployed and they're running off to a city in the morning, leaving you and your father to starve to death alone, is not an adjustment. Stephen, this isn't about you. How do you think your brother feels right now? Then we had another one of those desperate silences, despairing silences, until I had to ask a question that somehow hadn't occurred to me. Mom, how much does Jeffrey know? It turned out that Jeffrey knew he might be pretty sick. Try cauterizing a kid's gushing nose with a heat gun without him figuring out that something is up. But didn't didn't understand too much about the details. My mom hadn't wanted to worry him prematurely. When she told him he would have to go with her to a big city in the morning to see another doctor, all he asked was, "Will Steven come too?" This was the one piece of information that put me over the edge. I started crying. But when my mom started coming over to hug me, I ran upstairs for bed. If I had known that this would basically be the last time I'd have both my parents paying attention to me at once, I probably would have taken the hug. I could hear my parents talking for a long, long time before I fell asleep, but nobody came up to check on me. Jeffrey groaned in his sleep once or twice in the next room, but never woke up. I was alone. I counted the little glowing stars on my ceiling, revisiting my argument with Annette playing the drum beats on a huge imaginary drum set in my head, and then realized one last thing I hadn't thought about since I walked in the door after school. And I muttered to myself in the darkness, "Guess what, Mom? I'm going to be the star of the string concert."